begin in our fall series in October. It's all about setting yourself up for success in 2024. Today is laying out planning your year, and then the 12-week and the planning your year and the 12-week year. So on the screen is where we left off yesterday. Again, if anybody has questions or need anything, feel free. You can throw them in the chat box. You can raise your hand. You can just unmute yourself and interrupt me. Totally all appropriate. We'll recap what we've covered so far this month. And I will take this spreadsheet and I will share it in the chat box for you all, so you have it. This is the same one that we've been talking about all month. However, I do keep tweaking it and adding to it, so I apologize for that. But once you click on that link, it should put it in your Google Drive under shared with me, so you will have access to it at any time. You can pull it up and look at it. And then if you want to edit it or put your own stuff in here, you just need to make a copy of it and save that to your drive, and then you can edit it. You can't edit the original copy. So beginning of the month, we talked about values, right? Defining your values. If you haven't watched that video, it's on the YouTube channel. It's also on the training spreadsheet that we link all the trainings with the link to that video. So you can find it there. I highly recommend that you make sure you go in there and define your values and your why. Super important to keeping yourself motivated and moving to success, and having fun doing it, or staying in alignment with your values, which will keep you more motivated. So there's a values tab on there. There is also, just so you know, we talked about this previously, there is a goal tracking. We talked about making sure that you know your numbers and keeping track of those things. So you'll see here, you can track like appointments held, agreements signed, closings, both buyers and sellers, your personal GCI, that's going to be your gross commission income. So that's not actually what your check is. That's the gross commission per transaction. And then you can check in with this. This is set up to do on a weekly basis. You can follow your commitments from last week, results from commitments, what has happened since last week, what business challenges are you facing, what personal challenges are you currently facing, what should you focus on to move yourself forward, right? So you can track those things on a weekly basis. So you can go back and look and be like, man, I didn't have any closings this month. What happened like 2 months ago that caused that to take place? You can go back in and look at where your commitments were, how you were doing on those commitments, what you had going on business-wise, what you had going on personal-wise. So you can go back in there really and track your whole year through here. This is going to help you know your numbers. It's going to help you keep track of your closings, your GCI, as well as help you go back and find the root cause of things that are going on in case you're not hitting those goals. It will automatically pull over your goals from what is in the economic model spreadsheet. So it pulls it directly over from those numbers, and it will calculate it down for you for your goals for the week and for the month. So there you go. You've got that handy tool at your fingertips. We also talked about tracking your activities, right? So this can get changed for your forms of lead generation. These are just some examples. So like your database and SOI, that's your sphere of influence. How many calls did you make each week? How many conversations did you call, right? So how many numbers dialed? How many people actually answered the phone? Number of texts sent, number of replies to those texts, number of social media interactions, total number of social media replies in case you're sending like direct messages, number of pop buys delivered, number of referrals received, and number of appointments set, right? So we can track our actions that we should be doing inside of our database and our sphere of influence. We can track it down to referrals and appointments. Same thing here. This would be like leads from listings. How many active listings did you have that week? How many sign calls? How many mailers did you send? How many open houses did you host? And this is specifically for your listings. How many calls did you make? Did you circle dial the neighborhood? How many social media posts did you throw out there for that listing? How many number of leads added to your database, right? How many people clicked on that? How many people asked for information? How many people did you actually add to your database? And how many appointments set, right? So this is just allowing you, again, open houses, cold calls, farm. I tried to throw some of like the most common forms of lead gen in here, but you can go in here and tweak it for whatever it is that you're doing, right? Cold calls, number of dials, number of answers, number of leads added to your database, number of appointments set, right? So super easy there. Here, what worked well, what didn't work well, what needs to be changed, and what should you focus on next week. So you can go in there and throw that in for each week as you progress forward. Every Friday, report out your numbers so that you can track it. This is going to help you know your conversion ratios, help you track your return on investment for these activities so that you know what's working and what's not working. Any questions on that goal tracking or lead gen tracking? Okay. We talked about values already. The next form that you'll want to do, if you haven't done it yet, is dive in here and complete this dream life form. I would start at the bottom and work my way up. So I'd come over here and start with business expenses. What are my business expenses on a monthly basis? And break those down. Remember, you're going to have things like your car dues and your berries dues that are like quarterly and annual, and you kind of want to break those down to a monthly number on that. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. And if this number here, your monthly total, is less than 1,000, just buffer it probably in this marketing line item to bring it up to $1,000. Okay, your goal with your budget minimum should be $1,000 a month budget. That helps you take care of your car dues, which are almost $1,000 on their self come December. You know, all of your other licensees fees, as well as gives you a budget for marketing. When you're a new agent, oftentimes your budget isn't that much. Oftentimes you're working with like trying to keep it as slim as possible, and that's totally okay. But for the purpose of setting our goal for 2024, this number should not be less than $1,000. The other thing that we talked about on this one too was that there is, in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, there is the budget model that tells you how much money you should be spending on each of these areas. So that's a good one to do. I believe that Abby had that and linked it to that training somehow. If not, she will again. But that shows you the kind of, based on where you're at production wise, what your numbers and what your budget breakdown should be, so that you know if you're overspending in an area or if potentially underspending. Remember, sometimes we actually have to spend money to make money, right? If we're not marketing, then we may not be getting our listings and ourselves out there enough in order to get a response and actually create leads. So anyways, there's business expenses. Then you can plug in your personal expenses here on a monthly basis, and you can add items that you're not limited to these 5 items. Then you come up here, and this is going to be your dream life. What other things do you want to accomplish this next year that's going to add into factoring in how many deals you need to close? Do you want to take vacations? Do you have home improvements that you want to do? Do you want to pay off debt? Go on vacations? Do you want a super fancy dog? What are those items? You're going to plug these in here as well. It's going to calculate it all out for you, and it's going to put in, it's also going to add back in your tax bracket. So you can tweak this. And then again, if you go back and watch the video, it'll explain how to add those in to get a correct number. So ultimately, if I want to make like $100,000 here, I need to actually make $133,000 in order to pay my tax bill at the end of the year. Same thing here when we look at personal expenses. If my monthly total pre-tax is $1,000, then my pre-tax or my post-tax total is $1,333. We're adding that tax bracket back in, which makes it a total of $16,000, not $12,000 like you would assume. So we're going to add those taxes back in. Then it's going to come over here. You're going to put in your average gross commission. It's going to calculate how many transactions that is that you need to complete in order to make that goal. Okay, this is where it comes into, again, go back and watch this training if you didn't see it, but we don't just want to pick a number out in oblivion and say 120,000 sounds fabulous. That's what I need to make. No, have something behind it, have something you're striving towards and reaching towards, because it'll make it more tangible and keep you on target when times get tough. The next thing that you're going to do is the economic model form. This one pulls most of the information over for you, but you are going to tweak these yellow boxes up top. Cost of sales, ratio of buyers to sellers, how many buyer transactions to seller transactions, listings taken. These are all your conversion ratios here. Like, hey, for every listing agreement I have signed, how many of those do I actually close? You always want to factor in some fallout. Never factor in 100% on any of these, because at some point there's going to be some fallout. Somebody's going to decide not to sell. Somebody's going to decide that it's sitting on the market too long. Something tragic's going to happen, whatever it is. So never put 100% on any of these. If you don't know your conversion ratios, just leave here what the defaults are. You can tweak your average sales price for sellers and average sales price for buyers, right? It might be different if you're doing like the Zillow team. Your average sales price for buyers may be lower and your sales price for sellers may be a lot higher. Who knows? And then your average commissions as well. It's going to spit out some numbers down here at the bottom. It's going to break it into listings and buyers and tell you how many appointments you need, for how many signed agreements, for how many closed listings. And the same thing for buyers, how many total buyer appointments you need, to how many total BRBCs that you need to have signed. That's that buyer representation and broker compensation form, to how many transactions you're actually going to close with buyers. Okay. Then we're going to take this number here. This totaled 17. I needed ultimately 12 closings, and this totaled 17 actual appointments. Then yesterday we dove into this GPS, or your goals, priorities, strategies. I made it really simple for you. I said, hey, just plug in here like how many appointments you need to equal how many closings in order to hit your goal. Okay, we're just being really simple. Then I said, hey, listings, where are those going to come from? What 5 lead gen sources? Everybody should have database. Everybody should have leads from listings. And then we're going to work from there on, and how many closings are going to come from each of those methods. And then what do you need to learn, grow, know, and do? So if you want more information on that one, that training will be posted in a couple of days. That was yesterday's. Today, we're going to dive into, okay, we've got this done. What's our next step? Okay. Any questions so far? I know that was a lot of information to recap as we went through all those tabs. Real good? Thumbs up, thumbs down. You're lost, you're crying. No reactions at all.
Yeah, I do have a quick question.
Yes.
So, you know how you have all the tabs below, right?
Yes.
So is it safe to say like we basically go left to right? Like,
yes.
I mean, essentially, right?
Essentially, yeah. So how I am laying this out as I'm going through it is, yes, left to right, minus the goal tracking and the lead gen tracking. That's something you're going to do all year. So those are at the very beginning, but starting here with the values into the next steps, absolutely. Left to right.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep. All right. So once we have our GPS, the next step that you guys should do is you should, even if you use a digital calendar, get a paper calendar of the year. Or it could be like, you know, they have those big calendars that like go up behind you that have the whole year together, like something like that where you can visualize the whole year. We're looking at month to month, not necessarily week and daily here. You can even go onto like your Google Calendar and print it up by month, because our next step is we're going to take that monthly calendar and we're going to put on there, we're going to lay it out in front of us, and we're going to put on that calendar what this next year is going to look like. Okay. And some things you may not be able to put on it yet, but you can start. You should always start with your family, friends and family activities. Are you going on vacation? Are you taking time off? Okay. What does that look like? And when are you going to do that? Do you like to go camping? Put those camping trips on your calendar in advance. Do you want to go to Hawaii? Do you want to go visit me in North Idaho, right? What is it that you're going to do this year? Put that on your calendar in advance, that time that you're going to take for yourself and your family. Okay. The next thing that you want to put on there is if you have things on like your learn, know, grow, and do, like attend a summit, put that on there. Or maybe you're like a Tom Ferry fan or something like that, and you want to attend one of his conferences. Well, go online and figure out what his calendar looks like for this next year. Figure out which one you're going to go to and put that on your annual calendar, right? Mark that time off. Okay. Now, as we move forward with our 12-week plan, or as we talk about what that's going to look like, and let's say that you're going to host open houses for this next year is one of your forms of lead generation, you can go ahead and put on that calendar like, hey, I'm going to host 2 open houses per month, every month from now until the end of 2024. You can go on there and put what weekends or what days you're going to host those open houses. You can pre-mark those open houses on your calendar so that you make sure nothing else takes priority over that lead generation activity. Are you going to walk a farm? Do you do that one day a week? Do you do it 1 week a month? Like, how often do you walk your farm? How often are you doing farm events, right? So you can mark those things on your calendar ahead of time. Okay, so we'll dive more into that a little bit, but that's your next step, would be to create a monthly calendar of some sort. Again, I like it first. You can then take it and put it on a digital calendar, but I think for the planning process, there's something tangible about having a piece of paper or a calendar on your wall that you can actually like visually see all together. Okay, so that's your next step, is that calendar. Then what you want to do is you want to move to the growth plan tab. And here is, hey, what do I want to accomplish on a monthly basis that's going to help me grow over the next 12 months as an individual and also in my career? Just so you know, those things are very highly linked. You can't have one without the other. You can't grow in your personal life without also growing in your career, and vice versa. Growing in your career causes you to grow in your personal life. And sometimes growth isn't always positive. Sometimes it's negatives, right? So that's what we talk about. Like when you put your calendar together, like put your personal stuff on there first, because that should always take priority. Now, that being said, it shouldn't be like, well, every day something personal comes up that causes us not to do business, because that's really easy to do. So we don't want it to be that way, but we do want to make sure that we're taking days off on a weekly basis. We do want to take holidays and vacations, right? So put that stuff on your calendar first. Then you're going to go in here and put on the growth plan what you want to do. Is there a book you're going to read? Is there a conference that you're going to attend? Is part of your goal this next year to get like a designation on your license? Yes, Claudia, when things change inside of you, things change around you. Absolutely, right? So are there designations that you want as part of your license? You want to get the military designation or the certified negotiator, right? What are those things that you want to accomplish? Put those on here. What months are you going to accomplish those things? Are you looking to get your broker's license from your salesperson's license? Do you have a license renewal coming up? Like, throw that on here as your professional accomplishment. And then same thing with personal. Like, what are those things that you want to grow on a personal level to help make yourself into the individual, to help move yourself forward? Okay, so that would be your next tab. After we put together our GPS, then we're going to spend some time thinking about our 12-month calendar and then also our growth plan for both personal and professional. Any questions about that? All right. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to move and put it into actionable steps. And that's the 12-week plan. So when you look at your GPS, you're going to be like, man, that seems kind of vague. Like, okay, I need to have 17 appointments next year. That seems doable. 12 closings. I'm going to get one from the database, one from leads from listings, one from open house, 2 from open houses, right? None from, I'm not worried about sellers from my farm or social media. And then from buyers, this is where I'm going to get that, right? So we've got that in place, but that's really vague. That doesn't give us a plan of action to move forward. So on our 12-week plan, we're going to break down our annual goal into quarterly goals. Okay. I've got this starting right now in October to December. I know it's almost the end of October, but that's okay. This is going to help us devise our plan for 2024. Okay, so I still have my goal up here, my 2024 goal, 17 plus appointments, right? I'll always take more than 17, which is going to lead me to 12 or more closings, right? 12 plus closings. So my 12-week goal from October to December, in order to hit that goal, I need to have 3 appointments and 2 signed agreements, right? October, December, I'm not necessarily anticipating closing towards my 2024 goal. I may be closing to finalize my 2023 goal and hit those numbers, but this is thinking forward. So I need 3 appointments, 2 signed agreements. My closings are going to happen in January. So this is setting me up for success for those closings to start happening in January of 2024. Okay. Notice I didn't take this number here and divide it by 4. That would have been closer to like 5 appointments and 4 to get 3 closings. So I would have needed more than, I probably would have needed 4 signed agreements. But what I'm really thinking is come like November, December, how many appointments do I need to have and how many agreements do I need to get signed in order to have a monthly closing in January? So I'm really just setting up January for success is how I've got that structured. And just so you all know too, this is not the only way to do this. I'm just trying to kind of break it down in a simple format that helps keep you guys on track and set a plan for the year. All right. The next section is, hey, I carried over the same priorities from my GPS into my 12-week year. I'm just breaking it down. So if I've got right. So I went back to the GPS and I said, hey, what on the GPS is the most important thing in order to move my business forward when it comes to listings? What is my number one priority on here? That if I do that, it's going to make everything easier. Okay. And what I decided for my 12-week plan is that's my database. I need to import all contacts into a database so that I can track what I'm actually doing, my interactions with them, my follow through. I can actually send them like a newsletter, right? If I put everybody in a database, that's going to make my life so much easier. And it's probably just going to lead to listings because I'm actually in contact with people. So that would be like my number one priority for the next 12 weeks is, hey, I need to get all my contacts imported into a database. And then my second strategy is create an interaction plan for that Met database, right? When we look at our database, we might have like Mets versus non-Mets, like people who actually know us. My favorite example is like captured versus connected. So captured is like a zoo animal, right? They're in a cage. We've got them in there. They are trapped, right? That's somebody like we've got their contact information, but with a zoo animal, if you call their name, they're probably not going to come to you. They probably don't know you. They're a wild animal that's just trapped. You've got them captured. So that's like our leads that are non-Mets. We've got their information. We can get in contact with them. If they see our name pop up on their caller ID or an email from us, they may not recognize it. They probably don't. They're probably not going to answer that phone call or return a message that you leave them, right? Those are going to be our captured or our non-Mets. And then we also have our Met database. Those are people who already know you. They recognize your name. If you text them or call them or send them a message on social media, they're probably going to respond. That's like in my example of captured versus connected, we have zoo animals and then we have like your pet, right? Like your dog. If you call your dog, most of the time they're going to come to you. Maybe not all the time, but the majority of the time that dog's going to be like, oh my gosh, my owner called my name. I should go, right? So that's our Met database. Those people that recognize our name. If we call them, they're going to be like, at least feel maybe a little bit guilty that, man, I didn't answer Claudia's phone number. I probably should have done that. I should call her back, right? That's our Met database. So for me, I would say, hey, first I need to get everybody into a database. And then second, I need to have a plan in place of how I'm going to interact with those people once they are in that database. It might be different for you. This isn't like, hey, should be everybody's goals across the everybody in this training for next year. These are just when I look at it, that's what I think. Okay. The next thing, right? When I look at buyers, what are my priorities? Well, I'm already saying that I'm going to import contacts. So when it comes to buyers, when I go back and look at my GPS, I'm like, man, I probably need to start working a farm. Even though I'm not anticipating getting any closings from my farm necessarily this next year, I know it takes time to nurture a farm. And that's something that I really want to do because I think that's going to build long-term results for me. So my number one thing would have been like, hey, get everybody into a database, but I've already got that over under listings. So I don't need to necessarily list it twice, but hey, I probably should identify that farm, right? So when I go back to my 12-week plan, I've got identify farm in here. Okay. Keep in mind that if farming is going to be one of your sources of lead gen, there's no wrong or right answer to how many are in your farm or what the turnover rate is. Usually what's recommended is you don't have a farm larger than 400 homes, 450 homes, at least to start out with, and that your turn rate should be between 4 and 6%. That's how often houses are sold inside of that snapshot of that 400 to 450 homes. Personally, if I were you and I was starting a farm, I would say start with a farm that can be expanded to 400 to 450 homes. And when we look over the turnover rate, keep in mind and look at it as a whole. but I would start my farm with about 100 homes. That's more manageable for someone starting a new form of lead gen, starting with 100 homes. Once you're consistent in working that farm for that 100 homes for like 3 months or so, like a quarter, right? That 12-week goal. Then you could add another 100 homes to it the next quarter until you get up to the full farm area. But if you start with the 450 homes, you may get overwhelmed and be like, oh my gosh, that takes so long to door knock and it's so expensive to send mailers, right? So you may be like, very inconsistent. And the whole thing with a farm is you have to be consistent. So it's okay to start small. Okay. I'm giving you permission to start small with a plan to increase in size. So my first step for buyers is, hey, I want to identify a farm. And my second step is, hey, I want to create a farm plan. What am I gonna do in my farm this next year? One of the reasons I picked farm is that Kimberly was on yesterday and we were talking about her farm and like activities and events and monthly versus quarterly and big events versus small events. So that's part of the reason I put this on here. So we kind of talked about that yesterday. So number one, identify farm. Number two, what is that going to look like? So that's on my over these next 12 weeks or until now in the end of the year. That's something that I need to do in order to be successful in 2024. And then I have my learn, grow, know, do. When I look back at my CRM, I had, hey, I want to read 1 book a month and I want to use a database, right? So over here on my 12-week plan, when I looked at those, I thought, what's going to help me be the most successful? Number one is to identify the 12 books that I'm going to read. Okay. The second is I need to identify what CRM or what database I'm going to use. And hold on just a second. Sorry.
Did anyone else get that earthquake alert?
I did not.
I did.
Okay.
What is it?
Okay. I was like,
now you need to share.
An earthquake.
It was like an Amber Alert thing, but it was an earthquake saying stop, drop, and cover or something.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. I wonder if it was another test or if there was actually an earthquake. All right.
I didn't feel anything.
All right. So what's going to be your steps for the next 3 months in learn, grow, and do? What are we going to focus on? For me, it was, hey, let's identify those 12 books so I can get that on my calendar. Oh, felt it here in the office, 4.6. Yolanda said 4.6 on Bethel Island. There you go. Fabulous. All right. And then I want to identify, how do I import all my contacts into a database if I don't even know which database I'm going to use? So I'm going to identify or commit to a CRM platform to use. Keep in mind that with Realty One Group, we have several options, especially with Fox. You've got the One Suite that's free. You've got Real Scout, and then you've also got access to Boomtown. So you've got several options to choose from. So you may want to investigate, play around with them, decide which one works best for you and which one feels the most user-friendly and that you're actually going to use. Remember, the best database platform is the one that you actually feel comfortable using. Okay, so that's how we're going to break that down. Now, come next week, we're going to take it and break it down even further. We're going to take these items and be like, hey, let's break it down into action steps, like what needs to get done in order to accomplish these things. But for now, we're just taking our GPS and thinking about, hey, the next 3 months, where's my focus? What do I need to be able to do in order to reach these goals? And what do I think those steps could be? Now, you may be like an over planner, and that's okay. And for you, it may be like, hey, I'm going to look at all these things over here and learn, grow, know, and do. And I'm going to put steps together of what it takes to get there. Hold on. I've got bonus items on this that I'm not going to delete for you. I'm going to leave them there in case you decide you want to use them or ask questions about it later. So maybe for, and it may be a good idea too, to put these in order of priority. Like, what do you think needs to happen first, second, third? So that's always a good idea. That's kind of how we did this over here, is you should always dig into your database first. Then we should have leads from listings, then lead gen 3, 4, and 5. Okay, over here, we may want to do the same thing. Like maybe the book a month is our priority, and then maybe attend summit. or maybe use database as our priority, and then books, and then attend summit, and then hopefully my business is in a place where then I can hire an admin, and then I can implement systems and processes, right? So whatever that looks like, but you may be like, okay, attend summit. So I'm going to break that down over here. Attend summit. I need to buy ticket. Oops, I can't spell, but that's all right. I need to book airfare, hotel. Buy plane ticket. Get agenda. Plan breakouts, right? So we could like break it down into each step that needs to happen in order to be successful. So that's okay to do too. Then what we would do is be like, does this need to happen like now, or can it be like the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, right? So you could put like due dates on here so that you know when it is. Makes it really easy to take that 12-week plan and put those items into it on a 12-week basis. So if you're like a really big planner and you're like, man, database, what does that mean? Like, how would I even get leads from my database? What does that look like? Well, I need to identify a touch plan for my METs and a touch plan for my non-METs, right? And then I need to like execute the plan. I probably want a newsletter, right? So we could start listing those items out when they're top of mind and when we're brainstorming and thinking about things, so that we have the list of what that entails. And it may not be a complete list. It may be like a growing and changing list, but at least then you would kind of have an idea of what that looks like. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yes. All right. There's no wrong or right way to do this. This is just one way to do this. And this is a really easy way when you start looking at like the GPS or the goals, priorities, strategies. We break it into like a 12-week year and then a 4-1-1. Like, how do I do that? It feels a little overwhelming at first. So this is a really good way just to break it down. Like, hey, where's my goal? How do I break that down? Right? Where is that business going to come from? And then what steps do I need to take over the next 3 months to help move my plan forward? Okay, this isn't like daily activities here. So this isn't like, hey, every day you should be lead genning. That's like a given. We'll dive into that more on the 4-1-1. But hey, like, what things do I need to do over the next 3 months to help move my plan forward? Right? So I need to, number one, identify a database, and then I need to import all contacts. And it may be too that you're like, I don't like this 3-by breakdown. Maybe you just want like single lines underneath here with everything kind of prioritized. Like, I need to in the next 3 months, I need to identify a CRM to use. I need to identify the 12 books that I'm going to read. I'm going to import all contacts into my database. I need to identify my farm. I need to create an interaction plan for my MET database, and I need to create a farm plan, right? Those may be your next 6 steps in the order of importance. Line items, instead of going across, they could just be lines going down. Okay. There's no wrong or right answer to that. You can do it either way. My last one, I actually ended up on my 12-week year. So I broke it down like that. It was single line items, and I had more than 5 things going, or 3 things going across here. I think I had like 5 things because it was really 2 years ago. I had a new business. We had the coaching. I had my real estate business. We were trying to move to Idaho. So I actually had a section for each part of my life and the things that we were trying to accomplish, right? So this isn't limited to business. You can break it out more than that. And you can have more than 3 priorities up here, or again, you might have less than 3 priorities as well. Okay, but that's how you would break it down into the 12-week plan. So this next step is from yesterday. You're going to take your GPS. You're going to take a calendar, start throwing things on an annual calendar so that you can see them. Look at that growth plan, identify what you want to do on a monthly basis to help move and grow both personally and professionally. And then put together your 12-week plan. I would just start with October through December. Honestly, like, what's going to set yourself up for success for 2024. Keep in mind that you do need to put some stuff in contract, and you do need to get those agreements signed, or you need to have appointments and get agreements signed in order to put things in the contract to have it closed. right? And for you, it may not be signed agreements. Maybe, hey, I need 3 appointments and I need, if I'm going to have 2 closings in January, it may be like, or 1 closing in January. I think my goal was 12. Then it may be that I need to have 1 plus property in contract, right? So you may track it that way versus signed agreements. Okay, so there's lots of options there to do, and you can kind of decide what works best for you as well. In addition to that, if you go back to goal tracking, I didn't go all the way to the end of that spreadsheet. I went over the commitments in your agenda. At the end is your database. Here's where you can keep track of your active listings, what's currently pending, and what you have coming soon, so that you can keep track of kind of what your pipeline looks like. And then you can move those forward. And in case you missed the memo, like if I have 1, 2, 3 Sample Street as my active listing, if I hit Control and Return on my Mac, it takes you down to a new line on Google Sheets. So then you can go 1, 2, 3 Love Street, right? So you can, again, Control Return takes you to a new line. It took me a while to learn that. 3, 4, 5 Dog Street, right? So those might be my active listings currently. And this, I'm just going to keep moving those along each month. And then pending, here's what I have currently pending. 3, 4, 5 Cat Street. And then who do you have coming up, or what do you have, right? Active buyers that are looking, or coming soon listings. What agreements do you have signed that aren't yet on the market? And what buyers do you have that are looking for properties that are yet in contract? That's how you would use that final section there. All right, thoughts, comments, ahas? Was this helpful? Uh-oh, we lost Adriana. She must have fallen off into the ocean with the earthquake. Go, Shauna.
I missed a large majority of this. Will this be a video that I can log in and rewatch?
Yes, absolutely. It is a video. We're recording it, so it will get posted. It probably won't get posted till early next week, but it will be posted perfect. As well as on the YouTube channel. You can go back, or on the training spreadsheet, you can go back and find the other videos from the previous weeks that talk about the defining your why and your values, and the dream life form, and the economic model, and the GPS. So all those are also available as well. Abby just, perfect. In fact, because she's fabulous, she just put them in the chat box. There's a link to the YouTube channel there, as well as the link to the spreadsheet with the list of classes, with the hyperlink for the training on those as well.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
So you can grab those and save those.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Any other thoughts, comments, ahas? All right. Tomorrow, let's see what we have tomorrow. Make sure you log your attendance. There's an attendance form in the chat box as well. And if you want to see any trainings come up in the future, there's a place there that you can make comments and suggestions. So I encourage you to do that. It does help when we put together the schedule. Tomorrow, we are covering the TOPA form, which is one of those forms that's referenced on the residential purchase agreement when you have tenants in that are occupying the residence that you're purchasing. So we'll be covering that TOPA form tomorrow. Next week on Tuesday at 10:30, we'll talk about how to break down this business plan into weekly activities. On Wednesday, we're going to talk about time blocking to eliminate the chaos. Thursday, we're covering some of the HOA forms next week, and both Wednesday and Thursdays are at 9 a.m., Tuesdays at 10:30. So you've got those covering up. I will be taking a small break for a couple weeks after that. Ed and the rest of the team there at the office is going to help cover the trainings. It will still be on Zoom. So you'll still be able to click the same Zoom link to join in, but we'll give you that updated list of what's happening during that 2-week period where I will be out of commission. And as always, even during that time, I'm always available for your questions. If you need anything, The other thing that I was going to let you know that is when we start breaking this down to the 12-week plan and then we actually start executing that, like let's say that we create a farm plan, you should take that farm plan and then put it onto your annual calendar. So if you're going to walk that farm 1 time per week or once a month, you should put that time on your calendar way ahead of time. And then also if you're going to be like, well, I'm going to have a handout that needs to go, or I need to make social media posts, like put that on your annual calendar, because it makes it like a no-brainer that today I open up my calendar and look at it and it says that I need to prepare my postcard for my farm for next month today, right? So that I can design it, create it, print it, and have it shipped to me before I'm supposed to walk my farm. Or like if you were supposed to like call and arrange for something like for your annual yard sale or whatnot, you can take the steps that need to do that ahead of time. So we want to make sure we put all those steps onto our calendar. Same thing with like creating an interaction plan for your database. Does that include like sending out a newsletter or sending out market updates? Like what do we need to do for that? And is it something that goes on the calendar? Are we doing pop buys? When are we doing those? How often are we breaking our database down into are we doing pop buys once a quarter? So that means we've got like 12 weeks per quarter, let's say 10. And then am I breaking it down? So I'm doing a certain number of pop buys per week, or am I doing them all on 1 week each quarter, right? Break it down and put that on your calendar. When do you need to identify your pop buy? When do you need to have it created or ordered by? When are you going to go drop those things off? Or when are you sending your little calendar magnets in the mail, right? So all those things should go on your calendar as you start working through and identifying and creating systems and processes inside your business. That's all I got for you today. Anybody have any other questions or thoughts that you want to share or that you want me to answer?
Thank you, Amy. Very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Fabulous then. I hope you all have a fabulous day. Join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. for the TOPA form. And then we'll see you back next week where we'll talk about then taking this and putting it into action steps on a weekly basis. So we will see you tomorrow.
All right. You guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.